Hello, welcome to another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. I'm Lady TrenettWilson, your lecturer and social historian. Welcome all my subbies, and if you're here for the first time, welcome. Today's lecture is going to introduce a lady to some, and maybe some of you may have already heard of her, but I thought this lecture would be so interesting, giving all of the talk about the economy and where we are. Her name is Saddie Mossell Alexander, and she's the nation's first Black female economist. Now, Black women have always had to know how to budget some money, and economy is not an area that you, or even the financial sector. In fact, there's only one Black woman who is the president of a bank currently. So, Black women in financial sector is a small group of women, and this woman, Saddie Tanner, started it all. So it brings me great honor to introduce you to her, and let's get right into our lecture. Now, she's the first of many. She was the first Black woman in the country to earn a PhD in economy. She's the first Black woman to receive a law degree from the University of Pennsylvania Law School, and she also practiced law in Philadelphia, and she was the first president of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So she's a whole lot of furs. Sadie was born in Philadelphia on January 2nd, 1898, and her father was Aaron Albert Mossell the second, and Mary Louisa Tanner. But she grew up actually living with her uncle and aunt. His name was Dr. Lewis Baxter Moore. He had a home on the campus of Howard in D.C. So she attended M Street School. It's now called Dunbar in Washington, D.C. Did y'all grandparents or anything attend Dunbar? So that's the school she attended. She graduated in 1915 and she returned home to Philadelphia to study her education at the University of Penn, and she graduated from there 1918. Now, Sadie's family, they were very well esteemed for their education. Her aunt, Hayley Tanner Johnson, was the first female doctor in Alabama, and she also established the nurses' school and hospital school at Tuskegee University Institute. So we definitely going to have to cover Miss Hayley Tanner Johnson because she sounds like a powerful woman. Her father, Aaron, was the first African American to graduate from the University of Penn's Law School, and he practiced law in Philadelphia. So, can you imagine living in a family like that? Wow. Now, I will back up a little bit. Now, it wasn't all peaches and cream because Sadie's dad left the family and he moved to Wales. And they never heard from him again. So, woo, but she continued on with her education. Her brother, Nathan, was the first African American to graduate from the University of Penn School of Medicine. So, really, a powerful family, a very well educated family. Now, she had big shoes to fill, but she didn't have a problem with that because she continued to go to school. But I will say, despite her education and despite how well she did, racism was definitely afoot. They were treated Sadie horrible at the University of Penn. They accused her of plagiarism. They didn't provide for her the help that they provided for other students, and they stole her intellectual property. So it was her gender, it was her race, and it was the times. I'm so glad things have changed because that must have been horrible to go through. And studying economics, it was nobody else Black in that circle. I left also a link to Black banks. Y'all check that video out. Check to see if you're in one of the cities that the Black banks are in and begin to patronize that. Even if you only put $100 in there, support Black banks. So it was 1918, and women were still thought of as unintelligent. She proved them all wrong because she was very intelligent. And in 1919, she graduated with her master's in economics. And then in 1921, she became the first African American female to graduate with her PhD in economics. You would think with all this firepower, especially a PhD, that she could find a job in Philadelphia. But it wasn't to be. A lot of racism going on, especially again in the economic and financial field. So she had to end up going to North Carolina, where she took a job at a black owned insurance company for a couple of years. And while she was there, she met this handsome young man who would become her lifelong husband. His name was Raymond Pace Alexander, and they got married in 1923. He was the first African American judge appointed to the Pennsylvania Court of Common Pleas, and he was also the first black man to graduate from the Wharton School of Business. I mean, this woman's life is chocked with royal black and elite stories, husband, brother, sister. I mean, this is such a beautiful story. Now, when they were married, he had just begun law school, so she had to leave North Carolina and go back to Philadelphia. Unfortunately, nothing had changed. It was still racist, and she could not get a job. So, what do smart people do? They go back to school. And she went back to school to become an attorney. You all, she practiced law from 1927 until 1982. Say when she was in college, she pledged Delta Sigma Theta. She became the first national president, and she served as their legal counsel for 35 years after receiving her degree. So this woman is phenomenal. Her life was phenomenal. Her story's phenomenal. And I'm so glad that you tuned in today to learn all about Miss Sadie. Now, despite Philly's, companies not allowing her to work anywhere, she did become the first city assistant solicitor. So she waited her time out. She fought racism. She was a civil rights activist, and she got her spot. Congratulations to Miss Sadie. Many other appointments and awards would follow. They had a wonderful career, she and her husband. Her beloved husband passed, however, in 1974. He was found passed away from a heart attack. He passed in the judge's chambers. So he passed doing what he loved to do. Sadie survived her husband by 15 years, and before he became a judge, after she finished law school, she actually joined his firm. So she worked there for many years, and then she established her own firm after he passed away, where she also practiced. Sadie passed away of pneumonia from complications of Alzheimer's on November the 1st, 1989. Sadie and Raymond, they had four children. All of them were born allegedly premature. Two of them, however, survived to adulthood. One was named Mary Elizabeth, and the other one was named Ray Pace. Now, throughout her career, Sadie fought for working women and women in Philadelphia to be paid fairly. Sadie was recognized as Woman of the Year by the Urban League in 1948, and she was admitted to Phi Beta Kappa in 1970. You know, she had been turned down when she was attending the school at UPenn while going there, so great for her. And in 2022, she posthumously became a distinguished fellow of the American Economic Association. So we thank Sadie for her trailblazing work, her family. I mean, just an incredible story. I hope that you enjoyed our lecture today. Of course, our lectures are for education and entertainment purposes only. My resources were the Associated Press, the New York Times, and Thomas Sowell's The Education of Minority Children. I want to thank you for joining me for another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. If you want to keep learning about our extraordinary Royal Black and Elite history, click the video right there. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tell me, are you in the financial field? Do you know about economics? Do we have any accountants in the house? My very best friend in the world for 40 years is an accountant. And so I think we need to start pushing in this area a bit more as we begin to grow as a Black community and harness our income and our wealth. I'll see you, and thank you for joining me.